Hello, welcome to this lesson on exchange rates. Exchange rates are the value of one currency in relation to another currency. So when we're looking at the foreign exchange market right here, we're going to draw two graphs, one for one currency and another one for another currency. In this example, we're looking at the exchange rate between the dollar and the euro. So here we have the exchange rate of euros per dollar. And then in the euro market, we have the exchange rate of dollars per euro. Then in the x-axis, we have the quantity of dollars in the dollar market and the quantity of euros in the euro market. The supply and demand for the dollar is going to give us the equilibrium quantity of the dollar as well as the exchange rate for the dollar. And for the euro, it's going to give us the equilibrium quantity of the euro as well as the exchange rate for the euro. Remember, if you demand one currency, you must supply your own currency. So if you demand more dollars, you have to supply more euros to get that. So here, let's say that if we demand more dollars, that means that the demand for dollars is going to increase, shifting that to the right. That leads to a higher equilibrium quantity of dollars, but also a higher exchange rate for the dollar. Since the dollar's exchange rate's going up, that's called appreciation. But what's happening to the euros? Well, since we're demanding more dollars, in order to get more of those dollars, we have to supply more euros. So the supply curve of the euros is going to shift to the right. So if the demand for the dollar shifts to the right, the supply of the euros is going to shift to the right in this graph. So when the supply for the euro shifts to the right, the new equilibrium quantity of euros increases, but the exchange rate of the euro goes down. This decrease in the exchange rate of the euro is called depreciation. When a currency appreciates, this makes all of that currency, in this example, makes all of the US dollar goods more valuable, which means higher prices for US dollar goods. So, since US dollar goods are higher prices, other countries are not going to buy as much stuff from the US because it's expensive. So, US exports will then decrease. And then, if a country's currency depreciates, like the euro here, this is going to make all euro goods less valuable, have lower prices. And since they're lower prices, this is going to mean that foreigners are going to want to purchase more of that because they're cheaper. So net exports of the Eurozone will increase. Here's another example. If we have less demand for dollars, then that means that they're going to supply less euros because they don't want as many dollars. They're not going to give us as many euros. So here, the demand for the dollar is going to shift to the left, which means they're going to supply less euros. So the supply of the euro is going to shift to the left. You see, whatever happens to demand for one currency, it's going to impact the supply for the other currency in the same direction. So demand decreases for the dollar, supply is going to decrease for the euro. When the demand decreases for the dollar, you have a lower equilibrium quantity of dollars and a lower exchange rate. Since the dollar exchange rate is going down, that's going to lead to depreciation. When the supply of the euros decreases, that shifts that to the left. That means that there's a lower quantity of euros at the equilibrium and a higher equilibrium exchange rate. Since the exchange rate is going up, that leads to appreciation of the euro. And remember, there's a depreciation of a currency, that's going to make all US dollar goods less valuable, have lower prices. And since prices are now lower in the US, other countries, foreigners, want to buy these things at lower prices from the US. So US exports will then increase because it's cheaper for foreigners to buy things from the US. Since the euro is appreciating, this makes all euro goods more valuable, have higher prices. So the eurozone is going to be more expensive, so there's going to be less foreigners buying stuff from the eurozone, so eurozone exports will decrease. And that's because it's more expensive for these foreigners to buy things from the eurozone. That's all for this lesson. See you next time.